Hey, Tony guys here popping in. Now I'm on the road working, so you got to forgive me. Can't talk too loud. Remember, I always tell you when I'm in the hotel, the walls paper thin, so my voice is the baritone or deepness of the voice kind of carry anyways. But wanted to pop in, and I don't normally do this. I don't know if I got a thumbnail out up or not, and I don't normally use thumbnails like this, but this is very, very, very important, very serious. You see, I work with college basketball teams and sports teams, football teams, and I first years ago was working with the women's teams, and then I started working with the men's teams. And one of the things I've noticed is what happened with this University of Alabama basketball player. This honestly can happen with anybody. It can happen with any player. And the thing about it is, it's some factors that play into it, but more so than this just being with an athlete, we see this happening with everyday men. We also see it happening with some women as well. I just read that a 14-year-old girl has been charged with, I think, the murder of an 11-year-old boy. And I think he was hit by a stray bullet. But it kind of just goes to show you where our society is right now, and just how lost we are. And it's so angering because I was reading, and it looks like, as the story is being told, which seems like it's from the young lady's boyfriend, as the story is being told, is that a guy was trying to talk to her and she turned him down, and then that's the shooting occurred. It sounds very unlikely, although we've seen things like that happen. It sounds like there was some words exchanged and it kind of escalated, and maybe there was a threat that was said, and then weak men feeling insecure and weak and soft and feeling like a punk and wanting to be tough, wanting to be a thug based on the music that they listen to and the people they look up to, figure, hey, you done threatened me, or you done tried me, or you done said something to me I don't like, I'm finna show you. And then come and do something that you can't reverse. But it lets me know on the spiritual realm, there's a lot going on in the spiritual realm, because when I saw the mug shots, you got the guy who was with the basketball player. He from up around the same area where the basketball player is from, so it's probably a friend that he knew from back home. But the guy got the big old tattoo all across his neck, and he in the mug shot smiling. That just lets you know he all the way shot out, that he has been turned over to a reprobate mind, that he smoking weed, he getting drunk, he listen to all kind of music, drill music, whatever you want to call it, and he's just living in this fantasy world, and he's feeling insecure, he's feeling weak, he's feeling stupid, he's feeling worthless, and he's looking up to the wrong influences of what he think cool is, what he think tough is, and what he think a man is. And I could tell that he had envisioned this moment in his mind, and he had envisioned taking a mug shot and smiling, because he's envisioning that he's going to get out on the other side and have some street credibility and be seen as a thug, be seen as an OG, be seen as somebody who stood on business and handled work in the streets, and probably gonna try to become a rapper, or he might try to parlay it into being a motivational speaker. And really it just comes from an imposter syndrome. It comes from being weak and insecure. And here's the thing, that's why I try to tell people, like, we don't understand, a lot of people don't understand and don't think about this, but yes, the gentleman, he looked like he very tall, but height is not enough to get you at the Division 1 level. You got to have a little bit of skill at least, but even with that, it's a lot you gotta do to get to that level. So to get to that level puts you in the top 1% of athletes in your age group. in your sport. So for this young man to get there, it was some sacrifice involved. It was some late nights and early mornings. It was a lot of sacrifice by his family to have him on a travel basketball team, to have him out getting exposure. And now here's a team that is ranked, I believe, top 5 in the country, and he's on his team. Yes, he's not the star. He's not all of that, and that plays into it too. When I saw that he had 2 points in the last game, or 2 points in a couple, or he averaging 1.6 points, that spoke to it too. Of when you've been affirmed as an athlete and you're supposed to be somebody, you're supposed to be that guy, you're supposed to make it, but then things aren't going well for you. You get angry, you get frustrated, you're really upset, you want to quit, you want to transfer, you want to blame somebody, and your ego gets hurt. You're very insecure. So if it was in fact him trying to talk to the young lady and she was brushing him off, seeing that he tall, probably thinking she's gonna assume he's an NBA player or gonna be an NBA player, and probably used to women just talking to him just because he's tall and they gold diggers, it probably was a slap in the face to his ego. Now, we don't know if that story is true or not, but if it was, it would make sense because I've seen that before. But I've also been a college athlete and things were not going the way I wanted to go. And in that moment, I just started looking for some type of affirmation and looking to do something. So I started selling drugs out of the dorm room. I started stealing from stores. And it was really just acting out because I felt like a failure. I felt worthless. I felt like nobody. So that's why I also realized that this thing that happens in a moment's notice, and it sounds like they're saying it was the other guy who really doesn't have anything going for himself. Sounds like they're saying he pulled a trigger, but he got the weapon from the basketball player, which the basketball player, being 18 or older, can legally get a gun in his name from the local gun shop and could do it, just saying he's being safe or he wants it for protection. And some parents will allow that because a headline popped up where an athlete got robbed, and not realizing that if it was a legal gun and he did go about getting it the right way, the parents may not realize it's nothing to do with protection, because it's not like you in the middle of the hood and somebody is threatening to rob you, or like you're in danger. You're not in, gang territory. You're at the University of Alabama, one of the most prestigious sports programs, sports colleges in the country. You good. But a parent could have okayed it, or they may not have even known about it. But these young guys is getting these guns not for protection. They getting it because they want to look and feel like a thug. They getting it because they thinking about it so much. They listening to it so much. And if we honest with ourselves, and especially men, I can't speak for women, but when we're honest with ourselves as men, when we listen to this music, it does make us want to swing on somebody. It does make us want to hurt somebody. It does make us want to slide on the ops. It does make us want to catch us a body. And that is how the subconscious works. What it hears, it cannot decipher between fact and fiction. So what a lot of people don't understand is it's stuff like this happening across the board, and it's a lot of guys who've done things like this and they didn't get caught. It's a lot of college athletes who have taken a life or shot at somebody or shot somebody and they didn't get caught. It just went unsolved and it didn't make national news. Listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. I know all about it, up and through it, and I know people personally who have been through situations like these. It does not oftentimes come out because of the protection of the school, or because of you just in a city that a lot of college towns are really quiet, really dead, and nothing going on except for that sport, that school. So in that case, a lot of people get away with this type of stuff. But this right here is the chickens coming home to roost. And it's good for us to see and learn from, and it's bad for the people that's involved. We get to look at it and analyze it from the outside looking in, and this is why, as a father and as a mother, whether you are with somebody or whether you single parent, this is why there's no such thing as being too hard. on your kid. As long as you're doing it out of love and it's not abuse, there's no such thing as being too strict. There's no such thing as too many conversations. There's no such thing as checking in too much and talking to your child too much, because in a split moment, in a moment's notice, something like this right here can happen. And let's say it wasn't the basketball player, which we don't know, because in cases like this, sometimes the guy with nothing going for himself will take the rap with the hopes that the other guy who got something going will get a second chance and then pay him back down the line with millions of dollars. And so that's not out of the question. But let's say it happened the way they say it happened and the other guy pulled the trigger. It could have been a situation where the basketball player did not know the other guy was going to go that far with it and was going to act out. Now, for some people don't believe in spirits, meaning like good and evil, but the guy who is said to have pulled the trigger, to me, he looked demon possessed. When you have just shot somebody and you go and do a mug shot and you smile, to me, that looks like somebody has a demon in them. Like literally speaking, like just a spiritual possession. And the other guy, the basketball player, he crying and now he want to feel sorry. But the thing about it is, and this is why I try to tell my athletes all the time, you're not tough. You're not tough. You're not a thug. You tough in this here court, but stop trying to walk around looking cool. Stop trying to act cool. Stop trying to think that you are this music that you listening to, because a lot of the music you listen to is lies anyways, because if the guys did all that, what they say they doing, they wouldn't be here to talk about it on some music. So a lot of it is lies, and then it got the guys walking around poking their chests out, thinking they tough, thinking they somebody, and they want to be too cool. So then you go out to the club or you're hanging out and you get into it with somebody, and now all of a sudden you want to pull a trigger because you think you got an image to uphold, because you've convinced yourself now from the music that you listen to that you a thug. And a lot of people don't realize this, but I lived it. When I was in the streets, my motivation and my anthem was Plies and Jeezy. Thug Motivation and The Real Testament. A lot of them tracks on these two artists' albums or mixtapes was like, it was like a blueprint of how to make it in the streets. And that's what people are listening to. And people don't understand the power of music. When you take music and then you put somebody in a position to where they can act on what they're listening to, things could get ugly quick. And even when you hear a line like, I think it was Rick Ross who said something, put Molly in a drink and she don't even know it. And I think after that he got dropped by Reebok. But just by him saying that, I can guarantee you, based on how the subconscious mind works, I can guarantee you that a minimum of 100,000 men who heard that put a Molly in a woman drink the next time they was at the club or the next time they was hanging out with a woman and made a drink for the both of them. I can guarantee it, because we literally learn from what we hear and what we see. And a lot of people don't want to admit that, because it's so many people who just use the music as to dance or for fun. There's so many people who they look down on the artist, so they see the artist like a character, they see the artist like entertainment, so they don't listen. But when it comes to the artist looking like the person who is listening to it, we don't look at the artist like a character. We don't look at the artist like a fraud. We look at the artist like a blueprint. We look at the artist like a mentor. We look at the artist like, hey, you're my inspiration. Like, I can make it. And a lot of people don't want to admit that, but when you look at their behavior, you'll see that it's true. So we got so many people who are addicted to music who are also addicted to marijuana, also, or addicted to some type of pill or some type of other drug, lean or what have you. And it's literally because they're being introduced to it by rich and successful people that they look up to and they want to be like, they want to idolize. That's why you see so many rappers and ball players look up to and get tattooed like prisoners. In prison, there's a lot of tattoos being issued out, and you get a lot of tattoos to represent your gang, to represent your neighborhood, to represent whatever, and then you get out and you got all these tattoos, and it's really like soldier wounds. Well, the guys who are not going to prison, the guys who are not in the streets, they look up to those guys who was in the streets and who went to prison and say, hey man, they full of tattoos. He got 60 tattoos. Let me go get 60 tattoos. Even though this guy could be in corporate world like the NBA, NFL, we'll call it corporate, and making clean money, he will desire to look like somebody who made all dirty money. And the reason being is because we associate that with machismo, with bravado, with masculinity. We see that, oh, you're a tough guy. You're a tough guy. You in the streets. You taking lives. You selling drugs. You breaking laws. You doing you. So we associate that with something positive, as if like that's confidence. But really what it is, we don't understand that these people are operating from fear. These people are operating from insecurity. These people, some of them are operating out of necessity. It's something they feel they have to do. It's something they feel that it's their only option. They don't feel smart enough to get a job. They don't feel light enough, white enough, bright enough to make it in a different way, so they go this route. And then everybody else takes and look at this route and say, oh, you're doing this with so much confidence, so much bravado. This must be the way to go. And so now you got these young men that's emulating these artists that they're hearing, and they want to be tough. They want to be thugs. Because why in the world, what other reason other than doing what you've seen or what you've heard, would somebody get a gun and walk up to a car and just shoot up the car when the people not shooting at them and when they're not in danger? It's really from a fragile ego, a weak mindset, and bad role models. And then here you have a guy who has nothing going for himself, takes and practically cost the life of his friend who had the world at his fingertips. Because when you playing on a team like Alabama, you could average 1.6 points a game and still make it to the NBA because your team is in the top 5 in the country. So the scouts say, listen, you didn't have a big role for that team just because they didn't need you and their schemes weren't set up for you, but our team has a hole and we could utilize you. So there's guys who have come off the bench in college and went to the NBA and made tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's guys who were not that guy in college who became that guy in the NBA and did amazing things in the NBA, like a Tyler Hero or Devin Booker. You know, we didn't necessarily see them as that big in college, although they went to a big college. And so what people have to understand, and I've met several, I've mentored, talked to over 400 NBA players. So I get to see and study these stories. So this young man still could have made something with his life. If not the NBA, still could have went overseas and made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and which eventually would have turned into millions. And now he behind bars, and ain't no telling if or when he'll ever get out. Now me personally, I'm not as forgiving in a sense when you take a life. When you take a life and you do something that this young lady whose life is taken, she got a 5-year-old son. If you have a child, or if you got a niece or a nephew, 5 years old it's not an adult. It's not like a child. Everybody remembers everything about being 5. But one thing you definitely gonna remember at 5 years old is losing your mom. And that could ruin that young man's life. That could change his life forever. We don't know what type of behavior issues or what type of mental issues that this could bring about for him. And even if not as a child, because he doesn't fully, process it, it could bring about a rage or an anger when he's 13, 14, 15. And God forbid that he wants to go and get revenge on these guys' families, or take somebody from them. And this stuff happens. And the reason why I'm saying it, because this is what happens. This is how it happens. One guy hurts this guy, then that guy hurts that guy, and it goes back and forth. And the next thing you know, everybody's family being knocked off one by one, one by one. And it's a vicious cycle that the adversary puts us in. But you have to think about the influence and the sources. So the influence will be the media and the music when guys act out like this. And that's why the messaging in the music is so important, and that's why we have to check the music our children are listening to, and we got to refute it, and we got to combat it. And when their personality starts to change, when you see your daughter going to twerking and licking her tongue out, you got to be ready to snatch her tongue out of her mouth and check her, and check what she listening to. When you see your son walking around with his chest poked out looking like he a thug, you got to punch him in the chest and get that air out there so he understand you not no thug, and this not how I'm raising you. Get your life together, and this music better not have no stronghold and no influence whatsoever in your life, or you gonna lose everything that you got in this room. And you have to be that real and direct, because if not, it'll be your child that's growing up and taking the life of somebody else's child, because we're not raising these kids the right way and being real with them, because we don't want to be too overbearing. We don't want to be the strict parent. We don't want to be this and that. We don't want to be too hard. We don't want them to hate us. And then now lives have been lost. These young men gonna lose their freedom. And to be honest with you, we don't know if this is the first time. Like the guy, whoever pulled the trigger, we don't know if that's the first life they done took. We don't know if it's been other lives taken that just haven't been found for. And a lot of times that's how it happens. A lot of times you don't get caught on the first time you do something. A lot of times it's when you get messy, when you get sloppy, it catch up with you. Let's hope that it was the first and the last time it'll happen, but we don't know that, because oftentimes that's not how it happens. So this is what you got to understand. It's a lot of people that have taken lives in the streets and have done a lot of wrong in the streets and have not paid the consequences from man, have not went to prison, but got a wake-up call in another area from either having a child or street justice, and didn't have to go to prison, and then, or a wake-up call from God, something happened in their body, and they changed their life. So we got to understand this, and what we have to take from this is, let's pray for all the families involved on both sides. Even though, the ones who took the young lady's life, you want to be mad at them, you want to hate them, you want to be upset, but at the same time, their family could be in danger, because we don't know how these other individuals may want to retaliate, or their friends and family may want to retaliate. Because I guarantee you, if it was my daughter, I'd be struggling. Somebody have to talk me off the ledge every day, not to go extract some type of revenge or justice. And I wouldn't want to, hurt nobody innocently who had nothing to do with it. But sometimes that's just how street retaliation works. And so we have to realize that the stuff like this could get ugly quick, and it could spiral out of control. So we got to pray for everybody involved, and especially for the family of the young lady, friends and family of her and her son, who will be without a mother. And it sounds like she was with her boyfriend, or and he shot back. And so, and this is another thing we have to think about. We're in Alabama, and you got two groups of men with guns on them. It's like, why are we living like we're in a war zone, and why do we have to be war ready? And that literally comes because nothing is making us war ready other than the music that we're listening to. That's it. It's like nothing else anywhere else says be war ready other than the music that's being pumped into the minds of the people. And a lot of people don't want to understand that, and it ain't that powerful. You gotta wake up and smell the coffee. And that's why I tell my son, like, I don't want to be the person, I don't want to try to control him and tell him, like, listen, you can't listen to it at all. But I check them anytime. Personality, funny, can't play it in my house. Like any grade slip, anything, it's a rap. Like he got straight A's, and I don't let him play the rap music in my house. He play it. He say because when he working out, talking about the beats, motivate him. And I get it because I was raised with a father who's a pastor, and having to listen to Fred Hammond and John P. Key trying to work out is a bit different. And then having to sneak and listen to R&B, and I feel like that turned me out as an adult because I was too sheltered. So it's hard to find that balance, and that's why when we find it, in one sense, what I'm saying is we got to be able to, if our children are going to experience the world, we got to be able to explain it to them with some sense and talk to them about it and talk to them about the dangers of it. And so I'm going to have a talk with my son about this with this Alabama kid and these Alabama guys, or the one guy from up north, because this very same thing could happen to any of our children in college. Imagine that young lady. Imagine you let your daughter, you're not letting her because she grown, but imagine your grown daughter go down to this school just to have some fun, like just to get away. And I see this happen all the time with young mothers. She got a 5-year-old son, and she just say, listen, I want to break. I want to let my hair down and breathe from the monotony of motherhood and working a job and having missed a portion of my life, or missing a portion of my life because I got a child so young. I hear that all the time from my sister. Oh, I gotta have a life too, and I gotta take care of me, and I gotta do this because if I'm stressing, then this right here could happen, that right there could happen. So imagine your daughter, your niece, your best friend, your cousin, your mother going to let their hair down and just have innocent, healthy fun, and they don't return. Like, this is real out here, and yes, it's like we can't live in a bubble. There is nothing that young lady could have done differently that could have saved her life. Like, there is nothing, no preparation that we could have given her. What we have to do going forward is making sure that we aren't raising the men and women that's gonna be behind the gun, pulling the trigger, making sure that we aren't raising offenders, making sure that we aren't raising victimizers, that we are making sure the people that we are raising are full of sense, full of integrity, full of character, and that they scared straight, basically, that they are scared straight, that they understand that they need to fear you more than they fear anything else in this world. And you need to really have a hold on your children and really permeate their minds by showing them love, showing them the world, showing them the reality and the stuff that's happening, and knowing that they're going to learn from every little step, every little thing they see. Everything that I did not do in my life is because I saw it with my own eyes growing up. The things that I did experiment in and do were things that I was not talked to about, and things that I did not see. Like, I was a womanizer and I was having unprotected sex. I could have caught HIV, I could have got herpes, I could have got anything, and my father never once talked to me about sex, or my mother either. But had they sat me down and showed me pictures of STDs, and showed me friends and family who got pregnant as teenagers, or shown me guys who lost their life from sleeping with a woman and that woman had a boyfriend, like, shown me the reality, I would have decided to be a virgin until marriage. Like my son has said, he's going to be a virgin until marriage, and I'm going to stay in his ear about that. But I'm so real with him, and I share so many realities of the world, and I tell him about so many sexcapades and chances that I took, that it's giving him the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding he needs to make a calculated and informed decision with his body, because he's handsome enough and well off enough to have any young lady that he desires. But by me talking to him, it is making him make different decisions, and I'm gonna stay on top of him because I realize what I did not get in that area. And at the same time, I can't be mad or upset with my parents because it's not like they were raised. And as we're speaking about this 5-year-old boy has lost his mother My father lost his mother at the age of 7 or 8, and his mother was murdered. And so, and I really don't know the full story. If it was her boyfriend or a guy, like my dad may not even know the full story and may not want to tell me, son, I really don't know what happened. This is just what I was told. And I still don't know the full story of that. But that still hurts my dad to this day, and he's 60 years old. Like, he still, it bothers him to this day. And there was nothing he could do about it. It's nothing, he can't blame himself. Being there wouldn't have changed anything. Like, absolutely nothing he could have done about it, but yet it still leaves a hole in the heart of the individuals who have lost someone. And especially when you lose somebody horrifically, and not due to natural causes or, a disease or ailment that just came upon a person's life, but when somebody is taken from you violently, stripped from you, it can create a ripple effect of damage. And that's what we have to be mindful of. So we have to be more intentional about raising our children. We have to be more intentional about how and what example we are setting. We have to be more intentional about the messages we're allowing to permeate the minds of the youth, the music, the movies, and everything, because we never know how they're going to interpret it and how they're going to act out from it. And we also have to talk to our children about who they hang around and choosing healthy influences, healthy role models, and healthy friends. Because if this young man on the basketball team did not pull the trigger, for one, he should have never, ever in a million years been around somebody who is even capable of doing something so heinous, so ignorant, so reckless, so stupid. You would like to hope that he would have known better, but this is a lesson that needs to be taught, and this has to be pointed out. And one thing I really love and appreciate from my dad is he would look at my friends and he would analyze them, and he would say, hey Tony, I'm gonna tell you, this one right here, your friend right here like to lie, this friend right here like to steal, this friend right here, he like this, he is like this, he like that. And I'm like, whoa. And somehow I'll go to him and say, hey, my daddy said this about you. What? Man, it ain't me, that ain't me. And I'll go to my daddy, he said, son, what I tell you is for you. You're not supposed to go tell them what I said. Like, that ain't gonna make them change. That ain't gonna help them. It's just gonna teach them to hide their game better, because they realize I see them. Do not tell anybody else nothing about what I tell you for you. And that's what we got to do for our children. Like, don't let your son or your daughter get in a relationship and you see something about the person they dating, and then you just brush it off as puppy love, because your child could end up dead from the person they're dating not being all the way here and being turned over to a reprobate mind, and in spiritual warfare getting ready to lose that battle. We got to be more mindful about this, and we have to be more intentional about how we raise our children and the message we put in them. And we got to stop listening to this excuse of, oh, we did everything you can and you could do everything you can and they still could turn out. No, do more and be better. Because a lot of times people say, oh, I did everything they can. That's their cop out and that's their excuse. They was not sitting down there playing board games. They was not sitting down there having 30-minute hour conversation. They was not being consistent with their discipline. They was not exposing them to the world, taking them to museums, showing them black history, showing them crackheads and drug addicts, showing them criminals, showing them pictures of STDs, really walking them through life and really being an example and really being vocal. A lot of times parents get caught up just living their life and they frustrated. They yell and scream at their kids. They cuss their kids out. They give them new Jordans. They pamper them, they baby them, and then they beat them. But they're not really bringing balance and stability and responsibility and a positive and a healthy example that is immersing this child in what this child needs to know about the world. It's just parenting just to be parenting and doing the bare minimum, but calling it the most. We got to do better, because as the Bible says, train a child up in the way that he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. The Bible will never be wrong. The Bible will never tell you a lie. If you have raised your child right, your child is going to get in a place to where your child not going to go too far. Your child is not going to go to the point of no return. Your child is going to may make mistakes, may get out there just like I did, but I would not do certain things, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew I was tiptoeing, and I knew because I knew better. And it just took one little thing that seemed like it could be too close to reality of them streets, and it snatched me right up out them streets, and I turned my life around, rededicated my life to Christ, and you see me today. From being a petty drug dealer, from being a womanizer, from being an abusive boyfriend, from being a liar, cheater, manipulator, and deceiver. Even though I went down that route, I knew better. And that's why I did not depart from it. That's why I came back to what I knew, because of how I was raised, because of what I was taught. And although I say, hey, I could have had this, could have had that, I still had enough. So as parents, we got to stop making excuses for ourselves. And if we've already dropped the ball, if we've already made a mistake, if your child already in prison, if your child already took somebody's life, or if you done already lost your child from being in the wrong place at the wrong time and it had nothing to do with them, then you can't beat yourself up about that. But if you know that you could have did more and you didn't, if you know that you're not raising your child with consistent love, which means you chastise those you love, just as the Bible say God chastises those he loves. If you know that and you realize that, then teach somebody else and help somebody else. Talk to a young parent and say, listen, this is a mistake I made. I'm going to share this with you. You might not want to listen today, but hopefully tomorrow it hits you. We got to do better. We got to do better. We got to give more. We got to sacrifice more. We got to talk more. And that's why I'm out here trying to talk. That's why I'm out here running my mouth, just to encourage parents to spend a little more time, dive a little deeper, be a little more present, balance a little better, be a little more real, be a little more transparent. The best parent is transparent. The best parent is transparent. I mean, that's what we got to get to. And to the friends and family of the young lady that was lost, my heart goes out to you, praying for you. You know, God bless you. To the friends and the family of the offenders, God bless you, praying for you. Sorry it had to happen. Sorry that your last name got to be taken through this, and you got to be spoken on in different ways as if, you know, you're bad parents or bad person. Sorry about that. But take a lesson from it. See what you did, see if there's anything you could have did different, and if not, express that as well. You know, share that with other parents, write a book about it, and just teach on, but be very real. Don't make excuses for yourself. Don't feel sorry for yourself. You know, we got to accept the reality of the world on both sides. When we go through or we experience tragedy, we got to accept it for what it is, and then we got to get a lesson from it and speak and teach on that, because it'll help save other lives. So, hey, this is Tony Gaskin. God bless you. We'll talk soon.